Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about don't be an expat, do this instead.
So let's talk about what an expat is first, and then we'll talk a little bit about why, we're opting for something different. The definition of an expat is an individual living and or working in a country other than their country of citizenship, often temporarily and for work reasons, but not always. This does differ a little bit from an immigrant since you don't plan to live there full time.
Yeah, an expat is basically what we've always heard of as people who retire and move overseas. They buy a house in Portugal and that's just where they are. And then they may come back to the US or wherever they're from time to time. But they're kind of centrally located in one place for the entire year, and then they may go back to their place of origin.
Yeah, so they basically set up a life in a different country of sorts. As far as we're talking about the retirement sphere, people do this obviously sometimes for work as well, but we're talking today in the vein of, retirement. And for the expat world, it's just, you just set up the life you had or a life in another country. And like you said, there are a lot of countries around the world that offer great benefits to expats, which is why I think a lot of people choose to do that, because then they can get, citizenship or, rights in those countries as well. And so, that can be very lucrative and luring, I think, for a lot of people too.
Yeah, I think a lot of people become expats also because to become an expat, you really only need to pick one place, and you just pick that place, and then that's just what you do. You don't worry about the rest of the world. You don't worry about any other opportunities. But also in doing that, you limit yourself to that one place, and that essentially is why we ultimately opted to not become expats, because we didn't want to say right off the bat, all right, we're going to go to Mexico and that's it. Or we're going to go to Portugal and that's going to be it. And we've met a lot of people traveling around now who have done that, actually went through the process of getting their long-term residency visas for some of these countries, and then said, that wasn't for us. And they're going to keep looking. So I think, like you said, the allure for most people is being able to visit tons of different places and do it in a very economical manner.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other allure of it as well is just being able to set your stuff up somewhere. I think people, if they're just starting out, a lot of times they're like, well, I don't want to move my stuff around from place to place. So they want to do that, but it's obviously got its downsides. I mean, a lot of countries that offer these types of visas also have time requirements. Like you can only leave that country for so many months of the year. So it does limit how much more you can travel from there to other places as well, which does make it a little bit challenging, I think.
Yeah. So let's talk about what we do instead and what we recommend people do instead, just from starting out at least. You definitely don't want to start out as an expat. Start out doing this, and then if you feel like you found the place, you can move into that later on. But it's just slow travel. It's slow travel through the world as if you're spending a month in each place. We usually spend 1 or 2 months per city, and don't move through places quickly, and it has worked out so well for us so far.
It really does make a huge difference for you to really. One of the allures also of being an expat is that you can really immerse yourself into the culture and the communities. And with slow travel, you can do the same thing in a month or 2 months. You make friendships. We do that all the time. We have friends all over the world, people that we meet and we do fun things with, and we build communities everywhere that we go, because a lot of them are places that we come back to as well. So you come back and you just basically take off where you left off.
Yeah, essentially kind of the model that we've thought up, or we've been doing this for 6 years now, is that it's kind of like the people that live in the north in the US, and then in the winter they go to Florida for 3-4 months, and then they go back to the north. We're kind of doing that same thing, except for we're doing it in 2 month stints, and we have 4 or 5 places we're doing it. So we go back to the same cities every single year, and guess what? When we go back there, the same people are there at the same restaurants and the same apartments that we're at. Our friends are still there that we met the first year. They're still there the second year. They're there the third year. And so it's kind of like that snowbird mentality, but you're just using the whole world instead of just Florida.
Exactly. It's so cool sometimes when we go back to some of these places where we've stayed long term and we run into people. One time we had just landed and we said, oh, let's go grab our Metro card stations, our Metro cards at the station. And we ran down there, and when we got down there, we ran into a friend of ours that we knew, that we had met from a couple years before. She was like, hey, I didn't know you guys were back. And so it was just really funny to like run into somebody like that, extremely random in, Bangkok, Thailand. And it's such a huge city with so many people, and to run into her, not even at her home station either. This was a station several stations down. It was just kind of cool to have an experience like that. And even like restaurants that we patronize and go back, it's the same owner. They're still there. They still remember us, and they still give us a 10% discount for coming back to their shop, which is also a very, a really good experience.
Yeah, that's what's interesting, is because in a lot of these countries, you're going to be super memorable to the locals because, you don't feel like you are, but because you're not local and you're in this place where there's not a lot of, non-locals, when you come back, you've been there 2 months, you come back after a year, everyone's going to remember you. And you'll pick up right where you left off because you stick out. So it's not...
We definitely stick
out. They remember us everywhere we go.
Everywhere we go.
So that's a good thing because you don't have to, take time to make new relationships. You just show up and it's like, all right, yeah, I remember this. This is what I ordered here, and this is what happened. So it's great. But another thing, a benefit to the slow travel that we do is that you don't have to mess with long-term visas when you slow travel. You can mostly do this on tourist visas, which is actually you can do it fully on tourist visa. And it just depends on how long you get in each country, but it's generally 30 to 90 days per country, and they can often be extended. There really isn't anywhere I can think of where they would limit you to just 30 now. Some of them it's 30 initially, but you get a 30-day extension, and a lot of them it's 90. So 60 to 90 days you can spend basically visa-free. For the most part, it's visa on arrival, which is almost the same thing as visa-free. You show up to the airport, they give you a visa, no questions asked. And that's so much easier than securing a long-term residency visa somewhere. And for the most part, they're usually free, but they can sometimes run, $20, $30 or something if you have to apply for it online.
Yeah, another great bonus here is for us, we've always loved travel, and the big dream was for us to live overseas, which we even, attempted to do with our kids for long stays in different places. We went and stayed in Panama for 6 weeks with our kids and just different things like that. So we've thought about it for a long time, really more in the vein of being expats. But the great thing about this lifestyle of the slow travel is that it's really the best use of the lifestyle to move from place to place, because you can try out, the life in lots of different places. You're not going to get, if you're just popping in for a couple days, you're not really going to get the feel of a community. If you're just popping in for a couple of weeks, still, you're not really going to get that full feel. You really need about 30 days to really get the full feel and just kind of, what is this going to be like if I stay here even, longer? And that really is what I think is so unique and interesting about doing the slow travel as opposed to, setting up an expat life.
Yeah, and there may come a time when we want to stop exploring, or we've been everywhere. Actually, just this year we were thinking, where have we not been? And it's basically down to just South Korea and Cambodia. So we'll probably hit that up next year, and then we'll have been everywhere we wanted to go in the world. And from there, we're just going to be hitting places that we really did enjoy. So But I think as years go on, we'll probably pare that down to make less and less travel, and maybe eventually we'll pick one place, and that would be expats. But you don't want to start that way because you are closing yourself off to all the other places. Like I don't think had we just picked a place from the U.S., it probably wouldn't have been Thailand. It probably would have been Mexico. And now that we've been all over the world, it's definitely Thailand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think our initial thought when we started this over 6 years ago, our initial thought was we'll travel around for about a year, and then we'll find some place to plop ourselves down and do expat life. But then we just enjoyed the movement so much that it was great. But in that movement, you also have a little bit of a downside too that people talk about, and as you don't have regular like furniture and stocked kitchens and things like that. And you kind of take the good with the bad in this situation. And one of the ways that we can test that is we do have a line, in our budget for purchasing things. When we get to somewhere, we try to find, if we're like, okay, well, we get to an Airbnb and it doesn't have, proper kitchen stuff. If it's something that we can purchase for, $20 or less, and we usually do, and just kind of leave that behind. For the most part, it's usually like knives, like kitchen knives that are super dull and you can't really use them for stuff. Or if you need like an extra pillow or extra padding on your bed or something, those are things you can get, you can pretty much rectify. So it's not like it's a horrible situation. It's something that usually can be rectified with a small expense of some sort.
Yeah, exactly. One time we did buy a microwave to go, but we usually keep that expense under $100. So the other thing about it is that you can change up things you do want. So you can have a beach view one month, and then the next month you could be in the mountains, and then you could be in the big city. Whereas if you are an expat and you just buy a house, whatever you buy, that's what you're doing for the next 5 to 10 years. And that was the limiting factor for us, is that we loved the variety we can have. It's almost like having a house and then having 3 vacation houses all over the world, and you just kind of circle between them.
Yeah, it's kind of like those books that we read when we were kids, like back in the 80s, choose your own adventure kind of thing. This is really kind of like that, in that you choose your own adventure and just kind of go, basically this is choose your own life kind of thing, where you go wherever you want, whenever you want, essentially. And that's the beauty of not having a base somewhere, is that you don't have to worry about the stuff that you're leaving behind, either by renting it or having someone watch it and take care of it for you, which is always a hassle. It's better to just be able to have just the things that you have with you, take them with you, less things to worry about. That's why it's so good to be in that minimalist sphere, is you can take everything with you all the time and you don't have to worry about having stuff set up somewhere.
Yeah, I also like the fact that you can do things that you've always wanted to do, maybe for a long period of time. Like, I always wanted to live near a Major League Baseball stadium and just be able to walk to the games. Like, that was always kind of something I always dreamed of doing. And so last year we went to New York and we got a place in Queens for a month and walked over to all the Mets games every single day. It was walking distance. It was amazing. That's what I wanted to do. Now, I wouldn't want to do that for 5 years, but I did want to try it out for a month. And after that, I was done. It was great. I got to do what I wanted to do. And you can just switch on to different experiences like that you want to do. Maybe you've always wanted to be at the beach, or maybe you've always wanted to live on a ski slope. You can find a place for a month that's affordable to do that, and then you're not committing yourself to it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, so that's what it boils down to, though, is just doing your research. Know what some of the experiences are that you want to have. Do your research and really make the decision that works best for you. We're always big proponents for people to do what is best for you and your situation. We're never trying to convince someone to do what we're doing per se, but just kind of giving you the perspective of what that's like. And, if an expat life you know, that's really what you've been working towards and that's what you want to do, then, you know, obviously still go for that. But there are so many benefits to doing the slow travel lifestyle that we just really wanted to share that and just kind of give you that perspective of those two. So hopefully this was helpful to you. If you have questions about being either an expat or a slow traveler, go ahead and leave those for us down in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and we'll see you guys next time.